I've got all day to tinker around and there's no fishing for today. Two reasons. One, it's blowing a hoolie out there, and two, I've got loads of stuff to do. I've got loads of little tweaks, loads of little jobs, and it's all the little jobs that take the time. All the little jobs that take the time, and I've got loads of little jobs to do. Last session, I lost my first, I was gutted, I was absolutely devastated. I lost my first set of tackle or rig, however you want to describe it. I'm fishing braid, mono shock leader, and as I was reeling in, it was towards the end of the day. I wasn't as enthusiastic as I was at the start, and I think I just reeled it all in too slow. I snagged something up on the retrieve, and as soon as I snagged it, it was fast, it held fast, it was just absolutely solid. There was no giving it, and you're just thinking, oh. So I was considering going up and down the beach, trying to change the angles, giving it some slack line, see if it would work its way loose, and it just parted. It parted straight away. I lost my shock leader in its entirety and everything behind it. I don't like that. I don't like leaving gear behind. It's another snagging hazard for someone else. It's not good for the wildlife that's out there, and I do everything to avoid it. But it happened. And then all the questions start buzzing around your head as you're recovering. You're like, oh, what parted? What did the hook give? Did one of my knots give? And it was none of those. It gave at the weakest point. So I had snagged something immovable, and it parted right at the lowest taper of the shock leader. The knot held because when I retrieved it all, I had my braid, I had my knot, and I had about 10 mil of my tapered shock leader, and it went straight after that. So I can't really complain with the rig that I set up because it worked exactly as I'd set it. The failure point was there. But I'm withering on, but one of the jobs I've got to do today is to attach the tapered shock leader to my reel. I'm a big fan of this stuff, the Rovex 18 to 70 pound tapered. You get 5 on a spool, and to, just prove continuity. As they get old and like they age, and or if you get abrasions in it or anything looks untoward, then I change it. So I have gone through 5 in just over a season, just over a year, and that's across 4 reels. So that accounts for I've got 3 on my reels now. I've lost 1, and 1 I've changed previously. You can hear the wind outside there. So just to prove continuity, I've replaced it, like for like. I liked it so much, I bought some more. So that's the first, or one of the first jobs I've got to do. I'm still toying with going braid straight through. Braid straight through will happen at some point on one of my rods, just to try it. I don't think braid straight through on the 32 pound braid I've got at the moment is a good idea. Probably want to go up to about the 50 pound mark. And to support that, I've got in the post, it's like a posty day today, isn't it? From Billy's Fishing Tackle, North Shields. Quick open. It's always nice getting new stuff, isn't it? Even when I come home with my little carrier bag from the tackle shop the other day with all my little bits and pieces. It's good stuff. So what I've got for when I do intend going braid straight through, Breakaway Cannon. And I'll explain myself. Braid is about 1/3 of the diameter for equivalent strength to mono, and if when you're going to thump that out, you're going to end up with sore fingers because it is so thin and wet, seawater wet, braid, windy, you're going to get like cracked skin and abrasions on your finger. So what you do is you attach that to your rod. You take 1, possibly 2, I haven't used them before, so I'm going to learn, 1 or 2 turns. This is saying 1 turn. And you hold the trigger like you would hold the line normally, but you're not actually touching the line now. The cannon is holding the line, but you hold it in the same sort of way. When you cast, you release exactly as you normally would, but the cannon is taking the strain. Yeah, so first time I'm looking at them. I have ordered them, I am going to try them, and this is something I'm going to do in the future. Breakaway cannons. That will be coming at some point very soon. So try and keep some sense of order in here because I've got stuff everywhere at the moment. Get rid of my rubbish. fire's starting to warm up. I can feel the warmth from that from here. It's good. And my shopping spree. What did I buy? I bought loads of stuff. The last video I did was the up and over rig. Made a very, very distinct choice there. It's called a tutorial / discussion. And I didn't want to come across as having all the answers, because I truly don't. But the comments that have come back have been amazing. And it's almost like a learning channel, because everyone then can sort of give their opinion and differences and things that are good or bad. Yeah, I'm happy to hear both. And it sort of consolidated one of the things that I thought about anyway. And it's nice to hear it from someone else, so I'm not going mad. So I've still got one of the rigs here, and this is my hook snood. 36 inches with a pen on the end, and this is all leading to an up and over rig. And right at this point here, where there's the swivel, it's possibly a point where it could tangle when the weight is attached. There's the ability for something to be going on there. And I'd already been told by someone else that it was a good idea to attach a piece of tube in there, 2 inches, 50mm, 60mm, something like that. And then it consolidated with the comments on top of the video. So I kind of bought some. Rovex 2mm. I did have, and he's looking now, I did have some silicone tubing and neoprene tubing, but both of them are 1mm internal diameter, and I struggled to get it over the bottom part of the swivel to lock on, to latch on. And that might have been my own shortfall in skills and all the rest of it, but I bought some 2mm tubing. So I'm going to cut in a minute 50-60mm of that, put it on there as an anti-tangle device. The downside of that is I've got to cut the line again and remake the knot, but it's no biggie. And if it makes that little bit better, then so be it. It's another one of those little jobs that's just going to take a little bit of time, but save a lot of time when I'm at the beach and I'm fishing. So there's another one of the jobs it's in. So we've got some tapered shock leader, we've got some neoprene tubing, and I've got all manner of goodies. So in the post from Seaglow, paid for these. Just like to clarify that I'm never pushing these items. I'm not what's the word I'm looking for? Sponsored. I'm not sponsored, and nobody gives me this stuff for free. So I've purchased everything that I show you with my own money. Seaglow. I'm going to put those on my flounder stroke place rigs and give them a go sometime soon. And they are silicone attractor beads. I've seen other people in videos using them. I'm going to give them a go. I bought some hooks, and I've changed something that I would normally use. So I don't normally use the specific type. So I'm going to give the Surf and Uptide Extra 2.0s a bit of a go, Cox and Royal. The size 2 Uptide Extra, Cox and Royal. I'm going to give those a go. Bream fishing is what I've got in mind for those. To try and streamline my rigs, and via a recommend from the comments section, drop down to 4mm beads. Now I've never really given them much of a second look because they look so small, but it's been recommended to me by one of the subscribers, so I'm going to give them a go. I've bought some more up and over Gemini. Let's have a look, because I can't remember what these were called. Genie rig clips. That's the bit that evaded me. I couldn't remember what they were called. This is interesting. So I've discussed previously and shown previously that for the majority of my ray, doggy, whiting, normal general beach fishing, I use 40 pound amnesia. And what I have been using is either a 100 or an 80 pound Gemini power swivel. That's what I've been using. But it was suggested to me that I only need to use the 45 pound version because I'm only using 40 pound line. So why am I going so big on the swivel? I don't know. I hadn't really considered it. I've used them, I like them, but I'm going to try these because they've been suggested to me. So that's another thing to change or try. I've got some replacement swivels just because I've used so many. Another one, and I like the shape of these. I know I'm whittering on, but hopefully you'll see where I'm coming from. Cox & Royal Surf and Uptide X 4.0. Now it will be hard to show you in the packet, but they've got a distinct shape to them. So where the back of the hook, the shaft of the hook comes down, and it usually comes straight down and into a curve. These don't, they come down, curve away, and then go into the hook. On some of my baits, large baits, whole squid and things like that, I just think that'll present the hook point better. So I looked at those. They haven't been recommended to me, these ones. I was just browsing in the shop. I'm going to give them a go. And I bought some replacement imps. So all in all, for the little packets of wonder, we know how much all this stuff costs. So I bought all these little packets, and it cost a small fortune. An absolute fortune. Because it does, doesn't it? All these little packets of stuff soon build up. You start looking for it, you start tottling up the pounds, and you think, that was expensive. And it is expensive. What else? Oh, and then the last thing. The last thing, I predominantly fish with, let's get one out. Let's get one out and show. So I've been recently trying the Namex weights. I tend to go with the same sort of stuff. Once I'm happy with it, I tend to stick with it. But these were recommended to me, and I've been trialing them out, or trying them out, and I'm doing well with them. I like them, and I'll continue to use them for certain parts of my fishing. My go-to weight has always been this style of grip lead with the detachable or bait clip, for want of a better description, because I like it. But if you're using an imp, it sort of negates it, but you know, it gives you choices, and I like using those. And then I wanted something that was non-grip. I wanted something non-grip to go with placing flounder rigs, and I've made a slight mistake, I'll admit that right now, but I've bought these. Just watch leads, but with the added benefit of the bait shield bait clip. And the mistake I made was I don't use 5-ounce leads for my flounder fishing. So I bought 5-ounce watch leads, when really I should have bought 3s and 4s. Should have bought 3s and 4s. But they're going in a workshop. I'll find a use for them, and I will use them at some point. What I tend to use, he says, is the unclip, so now I'm turning my back to you, I'm very sorry. Continental. If I'm using non-grip the rest of the time, I tend to use those. But I like the idea of a watch lead. The reason why I like the idea of a watch lead is it's got a flat surface area, it sits in the mud, and if you just give it 1 or 2 turns, you send up a cloud of mud on an estuary type bottom, and the flounder are like, oh, what's going on over there? I'll go and have a look. And then your bait is presented on the bottom behind it. These, you argue, do the same, but I tend to use these on clean sand type beaches, and the flatness stops them rolling around too much, but actually does allow a little bit of movement. So that's the thinking, and that's what I've got. So I'm going to have to put some wood on the log burner, and we'll start. We'll do some jobs. So we're on to comments. There's been a lot of traffic on the channel recently, and it's interesting to see what people have got to say. It's also interesting just to acknowledge all of you subscribers, because I really do appreciate you all. Graham Ridd describes himself as no fisherman. You're in the wrong place, buddy. But he'd like to congratulate the channel on its first 1,000 subscribers. It's amazing. So in 4 months we've gained 1,000 subscribers and about 8,000 hours of watch time. I know a lot of people won't be interested in numbers and things like that, but when I stop and think about it, that just absolutely blows me away. And I appreciate every single one of my subscribers. the interaction you give on the channel, the support you give, the comments, and the fact that you take time to watch this stuff. It still surprises me that people want to watch this. James Cook has been asking about the forceps. Sorry, the fire's decided just to go a little bit crackers. It's popping and banging away. James Cook wants to know about the forceps that I use, because I've shown them in the previous video. These are the actual forceps that I use, and they were less than £5 from Amazon. The thing that I like about them most is that shape. They're not straight. They work like normal forceps, and you can do what you're going to do. But for flounder place, if you're going to put something back, you can go in through the gills. You can go in through the gills to turn the hook around, and they're the perfect shape for it. Now these are, when you search for these things, because I did look and I couldn't find the link, I genuinely did look last night, medical forceps, and put medical forceps and fishing into the description, and you've got a massive choice. Get the stainless steel ones, and also if you're going to look for a set of forceps, fire's going crackers. If you're going to get a set of forceps, get the ones with the clicky. So once they're attached, once you've got hold of the hook, you can then take your fingers out, and I'm doing this single-handed because I'm doing other filming and stuff. You can manipulate and change and do whatever you need to do, and at the end you simply detach them. So you've got to have that like little ratchet. That makes these a really useful tool. So sorry I couldn't put a link into the description. I have returned your comment, but I've put an alternative in there for you. Neil Lackenby thanks us for the tips, likes the video, and just confirms the fact that he would normally use a pulley rig because he's got lots of rock and kelp where he is, or where he fishes, but he's going to give the up and over rig a go, the one that we've shown in another video, over clean ground. Yeah, I think between the pulley rig and the up and over rig, it covers a lot of fishing situations, beach fishing situations, and they're two good rigs to have at your disposal. Now, Tim Mallinson put quite a long comment in, and of all the comments I've received lately, this really struck a chord with me because I really appreciated this, and it's nice that someone's noticed something that I don't think many people actually take much notice of. So Tim goes on to say that he's recently come across the channel. He thinks I've got clear and concise presentation skills. I don't feel like that. It's a personal quality of mine, but it's very much appreciated. And he goes on to comment about the quality of the footage and the sound. So I'll explain myself. I'm not using a GoPro. I'm not using an adventure camera, stunt camera, thing in a plastic case, all that kind of stuff. I'm using a Canon M50 mirrorless camera, and I'm shooting in 4K. That gives a difference in film quality. Now the biggest thing, or the thing that I struggle with most, is lighting. So lighting is a big factor of filming. You can only film what the camera can see. And I'm going to show you this one now. So also in the background at the moment, I've got, and I'm going to shine it at the camera because it will flare, but I've got an LED light to try and help spotlight in certain areas, and that's what I use when I'm night fishing. So I'm running a Canon M50 on a Gorilla tripod. I'm using an LED directional light on another tripod, and the sound, which I think is a massive difference between some of the footage that you're going to see anywhere, is a Rode directional camera, and it's got like the big cat's fluffy tail on it, and that's fitted on top of the camera. I am going to invest in some wireless microphones, so there's a possibility of just having a clip-on mic, no leads at all, so that when you go down to the shore and back again, you don't lose audio contact. You can have different filming angles and still hear everything the person's saying. I think that's going to add a whole nother dimension to some of the videos that we do. So the fact that someone's noticed the difference in camera and microphone that we're using, it shows it's worth the while, really. And then he goes on to another track where he acknowledges the fact that we've done some rig videos in amongst all the fishing and the workshop stuff, but he suggests we do some specific baiting videos. Now, I've included baiting and bait rigs and how we do them in the fishing sessions. I am going to seriously now consider doing some workshop baiting tutorials, or baiting tutorials / discussions, because I'm always looking for input and correction if I'm doing something wrong. So Tim Mallinson, really appreciate you taking the time to write what was quite a long comment in the comments section, but it's all good and I really enjoy it. The fish locker, John's replied with he uses the up and over rig quite regularly, and he went on to suggest that if it's detaching in flight, he found that using heavier mono or difference in casting technique seemed to be the culprit, and if you're having problem with an up and over detaching in flight, maybe they're two ideas to look at. So John replying, he's been very supportive of the channel, and I appreciate that. I really do appreciate that, because I know that you have a lot of comments of your own to respond to, and taking the time to put a comment on the channel. I really appreciate that. So Matt Burnand suggested the 2 inches of silicone tube above the swivel, consolidating what I've been told by others. So I appreciate the interaction there, Matt, and we're going to do that. Troy from Trodge's Fishing, I love watching that. I love watching it because I know he does some filming in some bad weather, but Guernsey weather and the colour of the sea is absolutely amazing, and the quality of the fish, shellfish and crustaceans that they get in Guernsey is amazing as well. So commented that some years ago he got rid of all the niff-naff and paraphernalia of rigs and went to a really simple paternoster, and he's found that simplicity has taken the complications away, and he's really pleased with it. I couldn't agree more. Absolutely, totally endorse that kind of mentality. I have to adjust my rig slightly for where I'm fishing, so there are complications with where I fish, and that is why, with the complications of where you fish, the rigs become more complicated. My viewpoint in isolation, totally in isolation. Okay, so I've mentioned for the pennel hook with the front and the back of the hook, and for anyone that didn't see what we were talking about, with a hook, just so you can see it, call that the front, that the back. If you put the line from the back on a pennel, it has the effect of unhooking the fish. If you put the line from the front to the back, it has the effect of hooking the fish. Now I've repeated myself because I've mentioned that in another video, but it only had to have someone to benefit from that, and it was worthwhile, and it has, and they've commented because they hadn't considered that particular point previously. So I'm chuffed to bits. That really small nugget of information has now changed or helped someone else. I really like that. Sweet Corn Kid keeps pestering my channel. I don't know who this fella is. I think me and him are going to fall out. Joking. It's Stu. I fish with Stu quite regularly, and he takes the time to comment positive, constructive comments on my channel, and I really appreciate that, Stu. Thank you very much. Scott Harris is a little bit impatient. He wants to know how I'm getting on with the Trident tackle. In good time, buddy. In good time. I'm joking. So Trident tackle, still doing a comparison with Gemini tackle. I'm already starting to form some opinions, but I'm already incorporating some of that tackle into other rigs. So it's not, you know, I don't want to give too much away because it's going to be the scope of a video in the future, but it's coming. It's going to happen. And Billy Brown talking about the pennel hook and saying thank you. My pleasure, Billy. As long as it helps, it's all good. And Michael C. Anglin. So Michael C. Anglin, he's talking about body and snood length, and I found what Michael was talking about to be very interesting. So I tend to go with quite a large disparity when I do my up and over rig. So when the snood goes up and back down, I tend to always try and aim for only halfway back down. And he's saying that stresses the rig. You should come closer down so there's less chance of stress and stretch in the hook snood. I understand what you're saying, and I'm going to look at it in the future because it sparked my curiosity. I really like what you're saying. I appreciate your comments, and I'm going to look at that for my own benefit in the future. Ian Hillier likes the way that I explain things and the fact that we give credit where it's due. I'm not in this to steal anyone's thunder. Absolutely, totally not. The channel was changed from when I first started it and the idea of what the channel was going to be to where it is now. And I think what I'm trying to do now is just be a conduit of information so that people can understand lessons that I've learnt and made, things that have worked well and things that don't. And also a chance for you to help me out and improve my fishing. And my fishing has been improving with the interactions from the channel. Alan Evans. Apparently my knot isn't a 3-tone grinner, and I knew someone would know. I don't know, and that's why I asked the question. He doesn't think it's anything in particular but a combination of other knots. Fair point, mate, absolutely fair point, because I don't know what it is. It's just what I use. And he wants to know why I don't use the uni knot more. Uni knot's a little bit fiddly. I can do it, I know what it is, and I'm pretty confident it's in my knot tutorial. There's a time and place for it. But for everything else, I use that knot that's not a 3-tone grinner. And Chris Timms is going to give the up and over rig a try, and he's watched the channel, and he was asking about he hasn't used an imp before. Seriously, I've just bought some more. I'm not saying they're good, bad or indifferent. I'm not saying they're the best thing, but actually as a possible tool in your toolbox of kit, if you can afford a packet just to try out, try them out. Give them a go. I tend to find these are a little bit expensive. A little bit expensive, but if you saves up your pocket money and you can give them a go, it's worth a go, isn't it? If for no other reason than you see other people using them, you try them out yourself, you don't like them, you never use them again, it's gone, isn't it? And then we're back to where we were with comments previously. So that's the comments for now. Been a lot of comments recently, so if I've jibber jabbered on a little bit, then I apologise. But I enjoy reading them and I enjoy replying to them because it gets me thinking. It gets me thinking about what I'm doing and whether there's better ways of doing it. And that's comments for today. Log burner, I've had to throttle it right down now because it is quite warm, and I'm almost getting to the point where I thought I was going to have to take my jumper off, but I've got the balance about right, I think. You can just see it in the background there. I've got it really throttled down close, and I didn't really want to go all the way across the garden. It's raining outside, it's blowing a hoolie, so I just made myself a brew. Bit messy, I know. Made myself a brew using my fishing kit. I know I've mentioned it in other videos and stuff, but in case you've never seen it before, I use this sort of system. You can still see the water's still hot. Goes together like that. And it's a brew kit from Alp Kit. Not particularly expensive, very compact, it packs down small. And I've just made myself a coffee out in the workshop, safe going indoors. I'm half expecting a text or a phone call from Mrs. W because it's nearly lunchtime and you should always have your lunch. I always say it, don't I? You should always go in for your tea, you should always have your lunch. Yeah, so let's have a look, see what time it is. She's late. She's late. It's 6 minutes past 12 and I haven't had a text to tell me my lunch is ready. I know she's not going to come out and brave the weather because it is absolutely horrible out there. Pipes just fell down off one of my shelves. I don't even know what the pipe's for. Put it on another shelf. Who else moves stuff around their shed or workshop? It's just come from there and now it's over there. And then I wonder why I can never find anything. Right, reels. I need to attach a shock leader to one of my reels. Now it's a lucky dip. I don't know which reel this is because I've got a sweatband on it. Ah, lucky first time. 50-50 chance and I got it right. It's got no shock leader on it because I lost it. It parted company and disappeared. It didn't want to stay with me anymore. Now this sweatband is a little bit damp. So while the log burner's on, it's time to dry things out. So I need to tie a shock leader on. Shock leader, shock leader, shock leader. I know I've already mentioned it, but I do like this stuff. It is Rovex Surf tapered shock leader, 18 to 70 pounds. Good stuff. Right, sticker on the end. And because I do this so few and far between, I can't remember how I tie it on. I've got a fair idea. I'm just gonna do a massive great big Dobie itch. Here we go. I'm gonna give myself plenty of line. Give myself plenty of line, and in true Blue Peter fashion, I'm going to try and show you guys. It's almost impossible to show you because that is what I'm dealing with. And this stuff is even weenier. Look at it. You got a job to see it. It's like a hair on my head. In fact, there's an idea. I'm missing some. Rather than loosen line off a reel, I always prefer, some people are going to scoff and scorn at me now, I always prefer to use the drag rather than try and unravel something off a reel. Give myself a clear working space, get rid of that sticker and cut some of this line off, just because the end of it is not looking good. Put that to one side. Now then, the first part of what I need to do is very simply a double overhand knot. So you form a loop, and as if you wanted to just tie a knot, you pass the tag end through, but a double overhand knot. So you pass it through again, and it looks like an extended knot because it's gone through twice. And I'll just pull that down. So it just starts to be comfortable and not start to get a little bit upset with itself, and that's the starting point. So this side is the loose end and this is the end of the shock leader. This is getting progressively thicker as it gets closer to 70 pound. So the plan is to pass the braid through, paying attention to the way that this line lays. So if it's coming out on this side, I don't want the braid going through from the other side. I want the braid to enter in the same direction as that exits. And then it's going to come out in the same lay as this line. So I'm going to pass it through, follow this down. I'm going to take 10 turns down, pinch and hold it, 10 turns back towards the knot, pinch a loop, pass it through, and then exit the way it came in. And then start cinching it all down. Sounds complicated, but it makes a really nice small knot. Let's take the spool off. Hey Mark, that'll make it easier dealing with a reel. So I've removed the spool. Why didn't I do that right from the start? I've deliberately burnt the end of that just so it's easier to see. If you're struggling to see it on the camera, Easy to see, easier to use. So we pass it through. And I'm going to give myself plenty, you know. I'm not going to be scrimping and scraping. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Getting to the limitation of my counting now. 7, 8, 9, and 10. Right. So we've gone 10 turns away. And as you can see, I'll put that right up close. It's gone in through the loop that we made. It's got 10 turns down the line, and we're going to start coming back upon ourselves now. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we're almost there. Okay? So we've gone 10 turns out and 10 turns back, and we're almost back at where we started from. We now need to find a loop in the braid, a hook point to tease a loop. And that's what I've done now, teased the loop. I'm going to pass the braid through that loop, and then finally back out through the mono circle we made earlier. And there it all is. So we've got 2 lengths of braid, there are 2 there, 1 and 2, mono, 10 turns, a teased loop, and a whole lot of stuff going on. It looks complicated, I know, but that's where we're at. Now it's time to close the mono pretty tightly down onto itself, and then start pulling down the braid fairly evenly, nice and slowly, making sure it doesn't gather and it doesn't jump over itself. And we're going nice and gently, a little bit seesawing around, and I'm just starting to feel a little bit of friction now, so I'm going to wet my line. So with everything wetted, we'll carry on teasing down. It's coming down, it's doing its thing, it's all looking fairly good. I'm just getting to the point now where I feel I need to close that mono down a little bit more, which I have, and then pulling down, pulling down, pulling down. It's all looking nice and tidy, and the knot loop is starting to form, or the knot body is starting to form. A little bit more on the mono now. Didn't want to do that too early because you'd restrict the movement of the braid. Now it's a case of just making sure everything sits up nice. We're nearly there. I'm just going through in turn all 3 of those lines now to make sure what we got is sat nice, it's drawn down, there's no slack in it. And it's not a spectator sport, that one, is it? So that's what we end up with. It's weenie. It's weenie, £18 mono, £32 braid to my spool, and 2 tag ends. And they're ready for chipping. Chipping and clipping. So what have I got now? I have got my transition between braid and mono, £32 braid, £18 mono. There's a little bit of fluff and nonsense around that knot. I don't want to get heat anywhere near it, which is what I would instantly be drawn to. Just singe the ends off because it's going to weaken the line, isn't it? But yeah, you'll find that goes through an absolute treat because it's so small. So So all that's left for me to do now, even though the reel does a much better job of laying the line, because it does, it's got a very good, I'm trying to think of what the right description of what it is, but slow oscillation, so that it lays the line onto the reel very parallel, very close, and that aids casting. I'm going to hand wind it on for now, and the reason for that is my first cast I like to just put a weight on and flick a weight out, recover it, put a rig on, wet the spool, and then go from there, because that's one of the considerations you have to make for braiding. It doesn't work well straight off the reel dry. So a bit of windy. I've come to the sticker at the end and removed. I've got 4 more on that spool. That will last me the rest of the season, hopefully, he says. And for no other reason than it's something I do out of habit, I'm going to take the last 6 inches of that off. I can't see anything wrong with it, just don't like the idea of it. And I've just got to terminate that with a clip. So I'm going to go and get myself a clip, terminate that, and put it back onto the reel. Still worth mentioning, I'm still in love with these reels. Surf Blaster 2s, 8000 series. Haven't found anything wrong with them yet. Haven't found anything wrong with them, and they've done everything that I've asked of them. I really do like them. Good reels. And long shall I continue to use them, I think. Next job. What am I up to next? I am going to... Okay, so I did put 60mm of tubing onto the hook snood to swivel of this up and over rig. Why did I choose 60mm? Because someone mentioned it to me 2 inches, and I just had a quick look. 2 inches is 50 odd mil. So what I'm going to do is I've got another 2 rigs, and the best way to learn the best way for me to learn what is the correct length without reading any books, there are no books that tell you exactly for every situation, is I've cut 3 different lengths. So I've got 3 rigs and I'll do a comparison. The one that works the best would be what I use in the future. So that one's 60, I've cut 70 and 80mm, and I'm going to put those on these other 2 rigs now, purely so that the next time I use these rigs, everything else about them is the same, with the exception of the length of the rig tubing that's designed to stop it from tangling. The one that doesn't tangle the most, or the one that tangles the least, or the one that works the best, will be what I'll change the other rigs to and adopt in the future. It's all good stuff, isn't it? So, the next length of rig tubing. This is Rovex. I've not used it before, but already I'm liking it. Now when you just use something and straight away you're like, yeah, that feels good. It's going to do the job. Rovex rig tubing. So just going to tie this up. What doesn't make it easy is doing it up in the air. Up in the air, almost out of camera shot. That's not good, is it? But we're going to do it nonetheless. So this will be the second rig, and I'm concentrating because I've got to count to 3. Some of these things do tax me, and I want to make sure that my knots are good. I don't want to fish a rig, the rig do all its magic, do all its work, and then one of my knots part. That would be devastating. It can happen, it does happen, but not very regularly, I'd like to add. A little piece of line, collecting all my line to one side. And then when I mention this rig tubing's nice to use, it feels good in the hand, and then once I've teased it on and started to just manipulate it so it goes over the end of the swivel, it does the job really well, and it locks into place really well. I like it, it's good stuff. And there we have it, rig tubing, just on the bottom of the swivel. It's sort of captive because it's bound onto the eye of the swivel, and it provides that anti-tangle function when it's close to the weight. One more to do, I won't bore you with the third, and that is another job done. So that is now all three of my up and over rigs with the rig tubing added, with 10mm differentiation between them. So I think it's 60, 70 and 80mm. Be interesting to see what happens. So I'm looking at Breakaway cannons. Got a set of instructions from another one that I've already opened up, and it's quite a simple thing, to be honest. So you take a turner line around the capstan, hold the trigger, that holds it in place, and as you cast, you release the trigger like you would release the line, and away it goes. And what it means, there's mechanical contact between the line and it being trapped, which isn't your finger. So over a prolonged session, casting braid only, even casting your tapered shock leader, you can end up with a sore pinky, can't you? So it says, tape the cannon securely to the butt in a comfortable position above or behind the spool rim. Above or behind, so directly above I think is where it needs to be. And in true Blue Peter style, I have attached my reel. Now then, hoping it doesn't all jump its spool because it's a fresh shock leader. The closest I can get that back is there. I can't get that any further back than that, which means that's the only place it can go. So I've separated the reel from the rod. The casting cannon, I'm going to have to make sure is lined up fairly nicely. Now, I think the smart way to get this on temporarily, just to see and see what I think, tie wraps. Good old tie wraps. So I'm going to put it on with a tie wrap to start with. Tie wrap it on, see what I think, see if I want to keep it, see if it's something I'd like there permanently. Bear in mind, these rods are my pride and joy. When I say pride and joy, it's my number one hobby. I have many. It's my number one hobby. It's my number one hobby, and I really like these rods. If I haven't already mentioned it, the Shakespeare K2 Extreme Blacks. I know there's lots of other rods, and there's really ding dang do ones, and there's all this, that and the other, but I like these. These are mine. There are many rods, but this one is mine. Right, tie wrapped on. Because it's really messing with my OCD, I need to trim the ends off. And I'm going to place that there for a second while I pick the bits up and tidy myself up. So I've just really gone a long-winded way of tie wrapping a casting cannon onto my rod. Do I need to make it more permanent, or is that tie wrap stuff really going to start to annoy me? You could bind it on. So that's what I've got. One casting cannon. So that is the position you would normally finger the line, I said finger the line, release the bail arm, and then when you cast, you would release your finger and away it goes. What this actually does is take a turn around the capstan, that's what they're calling it. You hold it in place like that, and then when you cast, yeah, because that's going nowhere. When you cast, the capstan releases, and I've got a weight on the end of this line, capstan releases, and away it goes. It shows a little bit of promise. I've not used one of these before. I like the look of it. Will I like using it is another matter altogether. But no, I like that. It sits really well. So the next job is to make that more permanent. I need to go and find my special stuff. I found my special stuff. It's not insulating tape, it's a German car manufacturer branded loom tape. I don't know if I can say the brand name and all that kind of stuff, copyrights and all those silly other things that come out, but I'm going to try and use some loom tape. My only concern, it's not how durable it is, because it's good stuff, I like it a lot, it's nice stuff. It's how sticky it is. It's not particularly sticky. Now I say that, not being able to peel it off the reel, but once it's off the reel, it's not particularly sticky. But it will dress down really nicely. So we'll see how we get on with it. Much nicer than insulating tape that would just leave sticky goo everywhere. The only thing I'm not sure is how the loose end will fare with regular use, whether it will try and unwrap itself. I might have to glue the last piece, if that makes sense. So I'm just working it nicely so it's nice and tight up to the end piece, and then back down so there's no loose ends, if that makes sense. And that is how it looks compared to a tie wrap. So that is the piece I've just put on, and that is the tie wrap at the other end that still needs to be removed and replaced. So I'm using that instead of that. And that is both tie wraps removed and the casting cannon attached with loom tape. That is how I'm going to play the game for now. I like the look of that. It actually feels quite comfortable as well. It's just like using, it's just a trigger instead of using your finger. And when you release it, it releases. So it's the same instinctive action that you would use. I like that. I like the look of it so far. How much I like it when I actually use it is another matter altogether. But willing to give it a go. One Breakaway casting cannon fitted. Before they get damaged, worth looking at this. I know I've shown it on one of my sessions already. It's a Drennan kit case, and it's a rod bag basically, but it's a hard rod bag, or semi-hard. I said semi and hard in the same sentence then. 2 zips, quite well sprung. I think it's more designed for freshwater carp rods, but it's perfect. Oh, that wind's strong. That is strong. It's giving the old workshop a bit of a battering. We lay these 2 in first. Probably won't be taking these next time, but it's a nice way of storing them when you're not using them. And then the next 2. There we have it. 4 beach casting rods, 2 15-foot 6s, 2 12-foot 9s, and that is quite. I am 5'7" and nothing. I wish I was 5'8" still. I've shrunk over the years. So what's that? 5'6"? I don't know, something like that. 5'5". Quite compact and small as far as rod holders go, and yet that's got 2 15-foot and 2 12'9" rods in it. Nice bit of kit that, I like that one. I think that's me about done for the workshop for today. So it just leaves me to say tight lines and happy fishing, and hope to spend time with you again sometime soon. Bye for now.